Assalamu alaikum and good evening and welcome again to all the attendees to another exciting session which is under ACCA's Global Ethics Week, which is this is the second day of the uh, Global Ethics Day, which we are celebrating along with our esteemed partners, including Pakistan Business Council, ICMA Pakistan, CFA Society Pakistan, Pakistan Stock Exchange, and HBL. So today we are gathered here for the second session for this day, and this session is also a very exciting and which is more centric towards the development of entrepreneurial ecosystem in the region. So before moving on to the panel discussion, we have with us Mr. Ziaul Mustafa, who is the President ICMA Pakistan. So I would like to request Mr. Ziaul Mustafa to deliver a welcoming note before proceeding for the panel discussion. So Zia Saab, over to you.
Thank you. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Ladies and gentlemen, I am really delighted and privileged to welcome this impressive gathering of professionals, CEOs of corporate entities, and the representatives of business and industry at this webinar organized by ACCA, Pakistan Business Council, ICMA Pakistan, CFA Society Pakistan, and we have sporting partners, Pakistan Stock Exchange and Habib Bank Limited, on the occasion of Global Ethics Week 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, the disclosure of information is now a global phenomenon. To ensure governance, transparency, and to enhance ethical awareness, the regulators need to play a vital role in driving enhanced ethical awareness in private and public sector. Ethics is an essential management tool for enhancing accountability and transparency. Dear corporate leaders, ethics are the rules that define moral conduct according to the ideology of a specific group. Moreover, ethics in business management are important for good business conduct based on the needs of the country. When it comes to the public sector, strong ethics are paramount. Professional accounting organization like ICMA Pakistan and ACCA, we are continuously working as a stimulus to drive ethical business growth in Pakistan. And we are promoting ethical principles which include honesty, fairness, objectivity, and responsibility. As professional accountant, we must have a responsibility to comply with and uphold the standards of competency, confidentiality, integrity, and credibility. Ladies and gentlemen, you are aware that we are right now facing a serious economic challenges due to this pandemic issue created due to coronavirus. The recent COVID-19 scenario in the country is not a good sign for the growth of our national economy. So in my view, the country should seriously make efforts to enhance economic activity for the creation of jobs. And the government has a role to enhance this economic activity for the creation of the job and to reduce poverty, unemployment, inequality, and social injustice, which are right now the root cause of increased crime in our society, and to promote ethical awareness as well. We need to adopt a wise and prudent attitude to tackle all these issues. At the same time, I think the government need to support from all the stakeholders, including the politicians, bureaucrats, business community, professionals like accountants, like professional accountants, and the general public to tackle the obstructing ethical challenges. At South Asian Federation of Accountants, which is an apex body of CERB and a member of IFAC network, we are also playing a pivotal role for the harmonization of professional standard in the area of accounting, auditing, and we are educating especially in ethical awareness. I, being a president of SAFA and ICMA Pakistan, is committed to raise the level of profession and to promote transparency and ethical practice within the region. This webinar, I am expecting, will provide opportunity to policymakers and corporate leaders to explore ethics in the light of new ethical complexity for this ever-changing business world that business must identify. With these remarks, I would like to acknowledge the contribution made by ACCA, Pakistan Business Council, ICMA Pakistan, CFA Society Pakistan, and our sporting partner for this event, Pakistan Stock Exchange and Habib Bank Limited, as well as member for organizing the Global Ethics Weeks 2020 to landmark its importance. Last but not the least, I appreciate the officers and staff for making excellent arrangement for this impressive event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ziasa, for your kind keynote address. Moving on with the panel discussion, let me just tell you about the topic that we are going to be discussing during this conversation. The topic for today's panel discussion is around startup ecosystem fueling workforce of the future. So in order to discuss and further explore around the topic, we have been joined by esteemed panelists from across the sectors with having diverse experience. So let me just introduce them one by one. So we have been joined by Mr. Shahjahan Chaudhary, who is the project director for National Incubation Center, Karachi, who will also be moderating this panel discussion. Then we have been joined by Mr. Asif Peer, who is the managing director at Systems Limited. Then we have been joined by Ms. Jahan Ara, who is the founder at the Nest IO and president at Pasha. Then we have been joined by Mr. Faisal Kamar, who is the co-founder at HRSG. And last but not the least, we have been joined by Mr. Zuhair Khalik, who is the co-founder and partner at Team Up. So without any further delay, Shahjahan, over to you.
Thank you for the warm welcome. Abhi, 1 or 2 days ago, I was talking to this friend of ours, aap bhi kei log jante hain, Adnan Faisal, and he was telling me that we make great startups to create a lot of wealth, लेकिन to make great startups, उससे अगर एक step पीछे जाएं तो you need a great founder. And in order to have a great founder, you need to have a great human. So it's a great human who acts as a great founder and builds a great startup. And the reason for that is that a startup is like a house of cards, and a founder is alone when he starts. And then he brings together all these resources from team to investors to collaborators, customers. और ये सारे को वो trust के ऊपर build करता है. And और वो trust के लिए ethics and character forms the basis of all of that, that entire journey of raising your first round of funding to second, third, fourth. So from my from the way I've seen different founders achieving success in their life, that's a key element to how you build trust, because corporates can there, and I'll come to Zuhair Saab and Asif. From a corporate perspective, you have processes and structures to control. But when you're running a startup, so you have less processes, more initiative, and all of that also means you have a lot of freedom to do things wrong. But that also means that you're more likely to fail if you do things wrong. So I'll request Jahara, because she has been very actively working with startup founders. How does she feel that ethics and a founder success, how do they come together in your experience?
Thank you, Shah Jahan. I think if I start with the fact that when you said trust is essential to any relationship, and especially when a startup founder is starting their journey, then when we started the Nest, which is almost now 6 years ago, I remember that the first startup founders who used to come into the Nest, they would ask, okay, you want us to join the Nest, but what do you want in return? So are you going to take part equity in our startups? I said no. They said, "Are you going to take any money from us?" I said, "No." They said, "Then why are you doing this?" And the level of mistrust in our community, unfortunately, is very high. So they said, "Then why are you doing this?" I said, "Well, just simply because we want you to succeed and we want to help you to succeed." And they looked at me as if, no, this couldn't be the reason. So over time, we have found that they have realized that yes, these people can be trusted, and the relationship has become stronger. So I think, trust is an essential part of what we need to do to build the relationship among startup founders and within our community. So ethics is important because trust only happens if you are ethical in your behavior with people, right? And a startup, because they're trying to build new relationships, whether it is with employees, whether it is with customers, whether it is with investors, they need to prove from step one that they can be trusted. So if they tell a customer that, look, I'm going to deliver this product on, X day, then they better be sure that they can do it. Because if they don't meet that level of trust, if they're not ethical in their behavior, then they've not only lost that customer, but they have lost multiple relationships that they would have had from, in their entrepreneurial journey. So we make sure that when we talk to them, they say we need to tell them that, look, ethics is extremely important, because the way you conduct yourself, the way that people look at you, is extremely important if you're going to build your business from here to wherever it is going. So I think, so we've always made sure that they know that from the time that they join the Nest.io.
Thank you. So, I'm very lucky that I have a lot of good friends, including Jahara. And this another friend of mine, his name is Ahmed Ayub. He's working as a CTO at Airlift. And, he gave me this 3-word line, which is my new favorite, in the last 10, 15 days. It's within commas, assume good intentions. So they say that, when we're dealing with our, people, our clients, we start with assuming good intentions from their side and then build trust on that. But coming to Zohair Saab, you've built Mobilink, and which is now Jazz, and now you've been as part of Team Up. You've worked with a lot of startup founders, building up the National Incubation Center in Islamabad, and also investing in different startups. So, how do you feel this difference between a corporate environment where process and trust go together, and building a startup from scratch, where those that governance may not be that proper, those structures may not be there, but yet you have to bring those things together because eventually you're going to become a large enterprise, and that is the mission. So how do you see this whole transition from startup to corporate, and building those processes and building trust?
Gee, thank you, Shahjahan. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Good evening. Uh, so I want to take a little bit of a step back here, and I think refer to something that you said earlier. Um, we're talking two different things, actually. One is governance, and it relates a lot to controls and processes and rules and procedures, which exist typically in a large corporate and may not obviously exist in a small startup or somebody starting a business in a new way. But if you take the step back, we're talking ethics here. And ethics is a basic human issue. It's got very little to do with startups or professionals or corporates. That comes later. The basic issue is of ethics. And when we talk about ethics, what is ethics? And ethics is some very, very straightforward things which we should be learning at home from our parents, our culture around us, and it is very much part of each faith, whether it's Islam or Christianity or Judaism or any other faith for that matter. The basic issues are the same. When we talk about ethics, we talk about honesty, we talk about truthfulness, we talk about morality, we talk about timekeeping. There's a fantastic word that I always use. It's called integrity. And when you go out and Google integrity, you will find that it encompasses just about everything that I'm telling you about. So integrity is about truthfulness, honesty. It's about being upright. It's about being moral. It's being noble, sincere, trustworthy. The whole gamut of what the basic issue here is. And when you bring that to a startup as a human, as a founder, uh, you are already well on your way to doing something amazing. Because as Jahan said earlier, everything is built on trust. And because the only difference here between a corporate and a startup is that a corporate may have over the years established a certain reputation as a corporate. People within the corporate will still have to then reflect those values, those ethical values, to be able to gain people's trust. The same applies to a startup. A startup founder or his team have to step up and say, if we're going to build this for the long term, if we're in it for the next 10, 15, 20 years, we're going to build something amazing, then you bring all those ethical values with you and you keep them with you, and that's how you build a business from scratch.
Thank you, sir. So one excellent definition of integrity that I always find very relevant is that it talks about being integrated in terms of your words and actions. So what you say and what you do, if they're aligned, then you have integrity. If they're misaligned, you make
हमारे
commitments and break them.
हमारे अपने रिलीजन में कहते हैं कि वो कॉल और फेल जो है वो एक जैसा होना चाहिए. So
बिल्कुल, absolutely. So, Faisal, in your experience, what sort of value does integrity bring to building a business, and and what role does it play? Because a lot of times, short-term thinking prevails, which ends up, people breaking commitments and losing trust of those around them. लेकिन उसका फिर long-term impact जो है, वो नेगेटिव होता है इवन बिजनेस के ऊपर भी. So it's almost like it's in your selfish best interest to do the right thing, and yet people sometimes not do it. So आपकी in your struggle and story, how does integrity play a role? You're on mute, sir. Faisal, आप mute में हैं.
First, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'll start, from where Zohair Saab stopped, the mindset. And in your question, you also addressed the same issue, which is the perspective, which is short-term and long-term. And I firmly believe when I started being an entrepreneur, after working 16, 17 years for corporate 10 years ago, the first thing was very important for me is that am I looking at a short-term picture, or am I building, a long-term vision, for myself? And without ethics, no matter if you have a brilliant plan, you can have a greenfield project. But if you don't have ethics, so the mantra that I started, with my friend Syed Ali Azhar, being a co-founder, is that raat ko neend aani chahiye. That was the ethical standards that we set for our company. And HRSG since then is on the same spree, that as long as you sleep peacefully, the kind of business you do, the kind of ethics you do, and the kind of delivery you do, and probably those fundamentals are far more effective, than whether it was a greenfield project or it was a bluefield project. But the thing is, as long as ethics, delivery, commitment, trust, if these words, was there, and at the same time, what you have built before becoming an entrepreneur, as the other also addressed that very much fact, what credibility have you developed in that? When you're putting your card, when I started the show, I was working like others, in corporate for some important influential positions, being the financial guru. And then when you start sending your card, which has no reality at the back of it, as a corporate entity, then you actually get to know your own credibility and ethics first, being an entrepreneur. So the thing is, what you have done till the time you become an entrepreneur, and being an entrepreneur, if you have long-term perspective, I think, without ethics, you can't move around. And with ethics, you can move around everywhere you want. That's my short and, clear submission.
Thank you, sir. Jahan, doing the right thing within commas, how does one make it a habit? And how does one um, you know transfer that to people around them? It obviously by example, but how does one make doing the right thing a habit? That would be my question.
So I think Zohair was right when he said it, it starts with the home and how we've been brought up. So parents telling you what is right and what is wrong, and not being afraid to admit when you're wrong, not telling a small white lie just to get out of a situation. All these things may seem small, but that's where the lies begin, the lack of ethics begin. It becomes a habit when you tell yourself that no matter what happens, I'm going to be upfront, I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to do the right thing. When I first returned to Pakistan years ago, people said, you will have to give a bribe, you will have to cut corners, because otherwise you cannot operate in Pakistan. And I told them, no, I don't think so. If you believe that honesty and straightforward ethics is what you need to build your business on or build your life on, you can do it. And up until today, I have never paid a bribe. Sometimes it's been very difficult because things take much longer to get done if you stick to your guns and say, no, I am going to do it the right way. So I think it becomes a habit when you practice it every day in everything you do, whether it's in your relationships, whether it's in your business, whether it is, even if you're writing a letter, you've made a mistake, don't lie to your customer. Just tell them that, listen, this was a mistake. I'm very sorry. How can I make up for it? The customer will appreciate you more rather than you making up a lie, which will involve telling another lie, which will involve telling yet another lie. And people don't understand that this is what happens. It's a vicious circle. So being ethical, I think you can look at yourself in the mirror every day and say, okay, I've lived a good life. So I think it becomes a habit only with practice. And daily practice, in fact, by the minute practice in everything that you do, whether you're talking to your employees, whether you're talking to your investors, you're talking to sponsors, make sure that they know where you stand about everything and live up to whatever promise that you make.
Sorry, Yusuf, I'll ask you the same question, which is that if I want to make doing the right thing a habit, and that habit is my character, then how do I make it a habit?
So nothing is ever easy in life, right? You can always, every day, I believe that you wake up in the morning और आपको दो रास्ते अख्तियार कर सकते हैं, एक बहुत आसान होगा और एक ज़रा मुश्किल होगा या काफ़ी मुश्किल लगेगा आपको. And often enough, it's the harder road which is the one you have to take to get to where you need to be. और उसके अंदर वही पर्सपेक्टिव वही जो मैंने पहले कहा कि आपको आपकी बाकी ज़िंदगी का सोचना है कि आप कहाँ तक पहुँचेंगे और वहाँ जाके क्या करेंगे. जैसे फैसल ने भी अभी कहा कि one of the most powerful things people will realize is when they realize that whatever is quoted on their business card, whatever title, is only temporary. It's going to happen for a couple of years, maybe a decade, maybe 2 decades, depending on how lucky you get. And then one day that title will not be there. The only thing I carry around sometimes today is my name, my mobile number, and my email on a card. That's all people need to know. And the only way you will feel comfortable doing that is if you have lived that life where you're able to walk in and people say, I can trust this person. Now, imagine you're doing your first startup, and as Jahan and others said, if you told a few white lies or you tried to misstate the opportunity to the client or you misrepresented the time it will take for you to deliver, they will remember that. And maybe this startup doesn't succeed and you go away and you come back in 2 years and you do another one. And you will say, nahi yaar, isse baat nahi karni hame, because isne to pehle bhi humse jhoot bola tha. And it's not about just truth, it's about timekeeping, it's about honoring other values and so on. और वही जैसे जहां ने कहा कि इसको आपको every minute of every day when you wake up, you have to be doing that. और उसमें देखें, being in a country where we are, where the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, हम सबका belief ये है कि हमारा हर एक जो call और fail है, वो मॉनिटर किया जा रहा है, not by your employer or your father or your mother, but by God Himself through His angels, right? And if you can remember that, then I think it becomes that much easier to say that we will only do and say what you will do, and say even in a closed room, because you know that you are being watched and you're being judged. अगर ये चीज हम याद रख लें तो आई थिंक बाकी काम फिर आसान हो जाता है इसके बाद.
फैसल, आप इस पे कमेंट करेंगे?
Yeah, the thing is, when it comes to inculcating that, how can you practice on a regular basis? What the time I started this show, one thing I made sure for the last 10 years, there is a values that I created, about 6 values based on those ethical practices that I wanted, for organization to build culture on. And in the last 10 years, I never missed a Thursday at 9 o'clock where I don't put up the entire company on one show and talk about those value sessions. So the thing is, as everyone mentioned, how do you get involved into it? Unless you practice it in a structured manner, somehow or the other, these small things can make a huge difference. So it became the talk of the entire company that on Thursday 9 o'clock, there's one company, 150 people will assemble through virtual or a physical session and going to spend 45 minutes, just renewing their commitment towards their culture. And when you renew their commitment towards culture, you talk about, about what values do we have and what kind of ethical standards we have. So there's one way to remember these ethical standards is to inculcate in your values and practice them on regular basis. Second, I'm in the business of making sure that people are getting their pay on time. So I make close to about 150,000 pay slips every month. So on this scale, I come across every month, to a situation where I need to preach and re-preach my people that you might be wrong, but never in doubt. So this philosophy, has to come across. So at least 4 times in the last 10 years, I come across a situation that I run a disbursement, and due to a defect in the audit review process, the lines of bank accounts changed, upside down. So in turn, 250 people got wrong salary. And when they got wrong salary, you feel that you are dead. And the thing is, this account is dead. There is multinational. You are an entrepreneur. I don't know what to do, because let's hide, make a story, or go in front and tell them that yes, we made the error. And just imagine the guy who did it. What kind of situation the guy must be in. And then I have to make a call that at this time should I come across and tell the client that yes, we did it, or try and hide and give a different story. So the thing is, that was my test, being an entrepreneur, that what kind of stress I can take and how big, I can take the venture. So the question and the answer was very simple. If I'm thinking that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and I'm going to not let my credibility go down the drain. So I faced up the client, and my first sentence was that, sir, we made a blunder, and we will be accountable before you, but we will not hide behind the bush. And this is the error we made. We will do everything to make it right for you. But the thing is, we are not going to hide. We have done it, and your employees must be furious. But that's how we are going to resolve it. You can take all the actions you want, but that can start from tomorrow. Today, let us rectify the whole situation. So I'm saying, in business, you come across a huge deal, $15,000 you can get if you get into this direction. But saying no is a very difficult thing. But as long as you practice your ethics, your standards, and you say you might be wrong, but never in doubt, I think it helps. So all last 10 years, all those difficult moments where you were actually tested about, the right way or the wrong way, as Zuhair Saab mentioned, I think the right way gives you a lot of satisfaction and the longevity and the long-term perspective to your business. And at the end, a lot of credibility to your own self and to your brand. Yeah, Shahzan, back to you.
थैंक यू सर. जोहिर साहब, ये बताइए कि एक तो पर्सनल लेवल पे डूइंग द राइट थिंग एंड एंड मेकिंग द राइट चॉइस इज देयर, लेकिन at an organization level, how do you build a culture of integrity, a culture in which, as an organization at all levels, obviously everybody is not perfect, but at least the larger entity is moving the right direction and doing the right things from top to bottom. How do you build that culture?
Gee, that's a great question, Shahjan. Let me give you two examples from my previous life. So, it's all about leadership. Okay, the leader has to walk the talk always. You can build any amount of rules and regulations and have HR monitor them, but unless the leaders themselves walk the talk, it won't happen. So I'll give you an example. When I first came back in 2003 to take over Mobilink as CEO, it used to be called Maybe. Okay, and the first day I was there, and it's a long story, and maybe another session, but the first thing I was told by the HR person at the time, the lead HR lady, she said, "Zuhair Saab, I need to show you something on your desktop." So but she said, "I teach you how to use your desktop." And surely that's the IT guy's job, isn't it? She said, "No, no, two icons which are very important." So she clicked the first one, and the camera zoomed in on my desktop to my CFO, and I could see that he had a little bit of a bald patch growing just like myself. And then she clicked the other icon, and I could hear him talk on his phone. And this happened, and she clicked through, and I could see all my staff like that. And I was horrified. I said, "What does this mean?" And she said, "Well, you see, sir, we want to make sure that they do their job." The second thing that happened was she said, "There is a clock in and a clock out system." So it's an Excel sheet popped up. And she said, "Here's what time the CFO came in and the CTO came in. And ये देखिए 9:05 पे आए, ये 9:10 पे आई, बहुत ही देर से आए, etc., etc. And I, horrified, I said, "Take this away now. And I want you to connect all of this right away." And she obviously बहस हुई थोड़ी सी हमारी. मैंने कहा, "देखें बीबी, आज शाम 5 बजे तक you have to get it disconnected, or you'll face the consequences." We did that. I sent out an email and I said, "As of this first day of my job, there will be no monitoring when you come and when you go, and there will be no monitoring of whether you're doing the work or not. But I assure you that as CEO, I will be in every day at 8:30 a.m. and I will only leave when the job is done at the end of the day. There is no start and finish of the day." And I said, "I am putting my trust in you to do the same." And a lot of my staff told me, "Ki ye aapne kya kiya?" 5.5 years later, when I was leaving and my farewell email ke upar jab mujhe jawab aaye, people wrote to me and told me कि उस दिन आपने हमारी जिंदगी बदल दी, because you said you're trusting us. How could we do anything different except to fulfill your trust? And that's such a powerful message कि कोई monitoring नहीं हुई उस दिन के बाद से, किसी की कोई time in and out नहीं हुआ, but people were spending 12, 15, 18 hours a day doing their job because they felt that they were being trusted and empowered to do that job. So that culture also has to be enforced within an organization and carried through the leadership of the organization.
So that is such an inspiring story. Jahan, I'll ask you the same question. How do you build a culture of integrity and trust in an organization? What's your experience?
So I think you do that simply by trusting people. If you are going to suspect that they are going to be crooked, that they're going to do things behind your back, then they will. But if you make sure that they understand that you trust them to do the work that they are there to do, that they're honest not only with their own work, but they're also honest with the dealings that they have with people and with money, because a lot of money also exchanges hands. And if you don't trust the people who are handling that money, then you're literally saying, "I think you're a thief." And so the person then starts to believe that, I believe. And I think the leadership role, as Zohair said, is extremely important. If you are a good leader and if you show that you are yourself practicing those values and those ethics, then I think it itself goes on to the team that works with you. And that's not just your employees, it's also, if you're an incubator, then you're talking about the founders who are here, because they know that you are trusting them at every level. Now, if you come into the nest, you will see there are cameras lying around, there are laptops lying around. And People in the beginning used to say, well, why don't you lock these things up? I said, look, we trust the people who are here. And they say, yeah, but you don't know them. But that's how you build trust. They saw that there were things lying around. Nobody ever picked it up. Yes, we have cameras for when we are not on the premises, so that if something happens or things go wrong, that the security is built in. But nobody is watching those cameras every moment. It's only when something goes wrong, like the alarm goes off or something like that, or somebody loses something, and we need to then figure out where they could have lost it. Sometimes they forget and they place it somewhere. And we have used the cameras, I think, in the last 6 years, probably twice, to find something. That one person even lost a laptop and said, how can you lose a laptop? And apparently he forgot. We found on the camera that he had actually taken it home himself. And we showed him the footage and said, look, you took it. And he said, oh, yeah, I remember now. So, the trust that you build within the organization, no matter how small or large, comes from you. If you start off by mistrusting people, then you're not building a culture of trust. You're building a culture of everybody suspecting everyone else of doing the wrong thing. So I think it comes down to you. You are responsible for whatever goes wrong. The others are responsible for whatever goes right. I've always believed that.
Great, thank you so much. So, Asif Peer, we've been talking about startups, and we've been saying, okay, to build a great startup, you have to be a great founder. To be a great founder, you have to be a great human. You run probably the largest services company in Pakistan. What's your experience been in terms of building trust with your clients and partners, around the world?
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and I think what I heard from Zuhair has been inspiring. I think because in services business we are working with people, right? So you cannot uh, do your job by stick. You just like he was, as Zuhair said, that monitoring and other stuff. It is not possible to motivate people because they are all knowledge workers and they are very intellect. So you have to lead by example. You have to create the values. You have to believe in the value system. And once your values are like integrity, ethics, and all of these, once you create those values, then of course that creates a culture in the organization. And once all the employees that they understand that, okay, we have to trust. We have the management trust, and we are not like we are looking at only the results. We are not looking at the timings and here and there. It's not like what you do day in and day out. It's about what you deliver. And once you do that, you automatically, once your employees are in, they do that with your customers. And once they do their customers and partners and ecosystem, then this is how the culture and integrity is developed, because we deal with customers every day and every project. And if we just start misreporting, or sharing the wrong data points, I think it's collapse. It's as you said in the beginning as well. It's a short-term gain versus a long-term gain. Might be one status report or one performance appraisal, you can get away with it, but you cannot get away with it for a longer duration, and you burn all your bridges with your customer, with your partners, with your principals. It takes one thing to break everything, right? You have built 10 years of your legacy and the trust, and you do one bad thing as a leader or as an employee or as a vendor or as a principal, you have destroyed whatever you have built. So what we stress upon, as Jahara was mentioning, we deal with public sector, we deal with private sector, and running a public sector company, we deal with a lot of stakeholders, and all the information is very vital. So it's only the ethics that hold us accountable. We because our shareholder trust us, our director trust us, our employees are trusting. So this is the culture. Once they see that top to bottom, that everyone is in a leadership, leading by example, I think this is what we have built a great culture in the organization, by trusting our people and making sure that they do the same thing with the customers, and they don't misreport or do anything that can destroy the reputation. Because what we truly believe is reputation and the brand is the key. Rest, we can win the business and lose the business. We can get the money and we cannot get the payments on time. We can deal with all of these things, but reputation and brand takes a lot of time to develop, and it takes a second to destroy it. So that's the principle. So I truly encourage whoever is listening, I think never compromise on any such thing with your customers, with your employees, with your people, because ruling with the stick doesn't work in today's world, you know.
Thank you. Jahan, we've had tens, maybe hundreds of meetings in the last, 10 years, and you're always on time, or, which means 5 minutes early. and, even if we're going for a dinner where everybody's going to be late, you're still on time. you know that people are going to be late, but you're on time. So, at the same time, we experience that a lot of young people, especially, are not as sensitive to, meeting their time commitment, both in terms of when they're, going out to meet somebody, and also in terms of their assignments and so on. Whereas meeting those time commitments also shows, establishes trust and credibility, and it's the starting point of your relationship with anything, right? So if you have a meeting with a client and you're 5 minutes late, it's breaking that trust from the very start. They're going to expect you to be late for every assignment, every project, and it just multiplies, right? So one, how do you keep up this habit? And two, what would you like to tell younger people that they need to, why meeting those time commitments is important in terms of one, as a practice of self integrity, and also as building trust with people.
So I hold two people responsible, two sets of people responsible for who I am and why I take time commitment so seriously. One is my father, who throughout his life was always on time. In fact, always before time. So he would be at his office. He was a banker, and he would be at the bank in Hong Kong while the people were still cleaning up. So, and they used to get really annoyed that why does the boss come in while we're cleaning up? And so what I saw was that because he was on time, everybody else within the organization was on time as well, right? Secondly, because I spent so much time with the Chinese, the discipline that the Chinese have for time is something that is unprecedented. And I think that habit I picked up. And I have always, you're right. I mean, I'm usually 15 minutes early, and I know nobody else is going to be there, but it's just a habit that I have gotten used to. My staff say, even when I leave the office very, very late at night, I'm still the first one in the office in the morning, no matter what. If I have gone on an overseas trip and I've come back at 5 a.m., I'm still in the office before they are. And they say, how can you do that? How do you wake up? I said, look, I set my alarm every day to wake up at a certain time. But before the alarm rings, I'm up. Because this is a habit I have developed over time. It is what makes me who I am. Now, as far as the founders are concerned, you're right. Most young people in this country think you don't have to be on time. So what if you're 10 minutes late? So what, if you're half an hour late or even an hour late? I tell them, and this is in my interview with people that I hire and in my continuous engagement with young people, I have told them, when you are not on time, you are showing the other person that you do not respect them or you do not value their time. And that is serious. It's not a joke that you are late. Oh, it's all right that there was traffic. Didn't you know there was going to be traffic? You should always count for all these things when you are making a plan and when you're asking somebody else to meet you somewhere, or when you're going to a dinner, or when you're going to a meeting. And I know several people in Pakistan that I work with and engage with who always start meetings on time. No matter if there are 4 people in the room, they will start the meeting because they say, and that includes Dr. Ataur Rahman, that includes Muin Fudda, people that all of us know. because they feel this is serious. This country will only develop and things will only happen if we have some discipline in our lives. And so whenever I interview a person, if they are 15 minutes late, I tell them, look, you have already ruined it for me. My perception of who you are and how seriously you're going to take this job, I've just found out, because you can't even make it for your interview on time. How do I expect you to be on time for the rest of the time that you work here? So I take this very seriously. I know a lot of people laugh at me because of it, but I think this is why I've been able to lead the life I have, because I feel that discipline is extremely important.
Uh, Faisal, I like you to comment on this as well. Meeting time commitments leads to trust. So, as an organization, what do you do and how do you deal with this?
I think what Jahara, the kind of standard she said, I'm sure is very difficult to follow, but I think that's where we all would like to go. I We interact in the tech world with these young lads. The average age of my firm is 30, and at 30, what they believe mostly on is to provide the comfort that focus on the core result. And if in between here and there, if we slip down, just have the patience to deal with us. So the thing is, I'm learning with these millennials, the new way of working, where my generation and my generation before that, we believe in a strict discipline kind of approach, towards success. I think now with this new workforce coming up, those standards are also becoming a bit flexible, and that's why we often see things are getting different. And the thing is, despite we take a lot of at times not in favor of allowing it to happen, but at the same time we are slowly gradually learning to the same facet. The value session I mentioned every Thursday, every 4 months I had to close that session, because the thing is 50% crowd couldn't wake up and reach at 9 o'clock. And now every 3 weeks I'm then extending it to 5 minutes to 10 minutes. So what I'm saying, that these ethical standards in some way is critical for the organization in terms of your culture, but at the same time some kind of flexibility has to be incorporated to make sure that with the changing situation and the changing mindset. Because now the entrepreneurship, I met one of the founders for bazaar.com. The guy is 23 years old, and when the entrepreneurial lot coming up with 23 years and some at 40 years, the thing is the kind of organization they are creating a lot more flexibility into the organization. So what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to ethical standards, there has to be some kind of transformation as well, to make sure that it is applicable to all type of individuals, rather than a certain certain generation going about it. So my point is that in this context also, those standards, those cultural values has to have impact, what kind of generation mindset and what kind of diversity you are dealing with. Back to you, Shaja.
Gee, Zohair Sahab, I wanted to come to you anyway. Please.
Taking Ismail, I will make two or three comments. One, जैसे जहान ने कहा, I also got influenced by a very, very strict dad who was a stickler for time, and so were at least 2 or 3 of my bosses as well. So you'll always find me 15 minutes early everywhere as well, irrespective. Now, there's a difference between the time that Faisal is referring to and I think what we are talking about, Jahan and I are talking about.
Yes.
You can come in and finish your job and go home as you like, because that's fine, as long as you deliver the work. And especially in this day of COVID where we're all sitting at home on Zoom, I find that a perfectly acceptable thing to do. But the other time is when you give somebody time, or there is a meeting which is scheduled for a certain time. If then you do not turn up, there are two things I have to say. One, I asked all of these millennials, show me a website or an app where I can go buy 30 minutes of time. It's the only thing in the world that doesn't come back. Okay, you lose your health, you can go to a doctor, you can take some vitamins, you can take a treatment, you'll get better. You lose your wealth, you might work again, maybe earn it again. Time never comes back to you. So it is one of those things which is very scarce in its existence. And the minute you lose 10 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever, that's gone forever. It's not coming back to you. So that's should be very clear to everybody. Uh, and the second thing is exactly what has already been said. If you turn up late after agreeing a time with somebody else, you are offering them huge disrespect. And my biggest question then is, if you can't manage your time, how the heck are you going to manage a business or a startup or even your job? Frankly, your life. How will you manage your life if you can't manage time? And it's as simple as that. I don't, as I said, there's got to be a distinction between the two. There's the one where you finish things on time or be productive in your own time. That's fine. But the other one is just, to me, not a compromise. It reflects.
Thank you, Zoe sir, for clarifying that. I'm very happy that you clarified it so well. Asif, if you could tell us a little bit about your organizational culture, and uske andar, how do you develop leaders and how do you train them to be better human beings, and what's your process? Asif, you're mute.
Yeah, sorry. That's one problem. So of course, from a leadership, I think perspective, it's a constant process, right? That we truly believe as you are growing that we since there's a core team, there's a core leadership that is with you, that is with the management, with the board, with the culture that we have developed, the bonding and the values. Since our culture, since we hire a lot of people, like 1/3 of the organization every year, or I would say 40% of the organization is new every year. Like since we hire like about 500-600 people a year, so it means we are adding 30-40% new workforce every year. And of course there is a turnover as well, about 10%, so 30-35% new people coming in. And it's at all level. It's a leadership, it's junior, senior, all type of people, from fresh grad to C-level guys. So I think if you don't have the what I have figured out, that earlier we started that value-based culture and the training and the awareness, and that this is what systems way is. This is how we have been orchestrating. This is the growth journey that we have been doing. So we can constantly, it's constantly evaluating and constantly adding people and constantly training them on certain skills and certain strength at whatever level we hire. I think we are hiring for the future. We are not hiring for. I tell my recruitment and my leadership, whoever is hiring people, do not look for the people what they are currently. Look for the future. Hire for the future, and don't look at what you guys will get ready-made. Everything in the person. Is the person willing to learn and adopt? I think we have been hearing and reading the book build to last, right? That is the phenomena that what we have been hearing, that build to last. Now it has been changed. We have to build to adopt, right? So I think we need to see that whoever in the leadership or any position that you are hiring, do they have a growth mindset? Are they willing to learn? We are not hiring the perfect candidates for forever. You will not find it. But if person or leader or any level is willing to learn and adopt, I think that's what we are looking for. And I think this is only way, because what I truly believe, to scale like an adding number of people, you need to have that kind of an auto scale culture where people just come and adjust and adopt themselves and bring. And we should have a listening capability and the feedback capability as well, because as you get in the new talent at any level, you need to absorb the feedback as well and nurture the culture so it is well received from various people that in the organization, from leadership to the fresh grad or intern even. So that's I think it's a constant process. I would say it's in a services business and in a scaling business where you're recruiting 100 people every month. It's a constant constant cycle.
Okay,
We
great.
don't get the break.
Thank you so much. Zuhair Saab, I feel that founders are like athletes, and as like an athlete has to have a lot of self-discipline, and he has to wake up at certain time, exercise every day, eat certain foods, not eat. So if you want to be an okay athlete, that's fine. But if you want to be an Olympic level athlete, then you have to follow certain, there's a huge amount of self-discipline and tenacity which is required. And a lot of time, young people think as if being creative is the opposite of having self-discipline. And so, one, I would like you to, clarify the difference between, the self-discipline that moves you forward and, which doesn't stop your creativity. And the second is how do you develop that self-discipline yourself?
So again, I think they can whether you're a startup or a founder or a professional or you've been working at a corporate, if you're going to get ahead, if you're going to be better than everybody else, discipline is absolutely at the fundamental base of it. And it doesn't matter. And creativity comes anyway. Okay. So these are, to me, are things which are trying to confuse the issue. Um, as a young professional, when I came back to Pakistan a long time ago in 1984, I came back from the UK as a newly qualified chartered accountant. And I thought I was the cat's whiskers. Nobody could be better than me, etc., etc. You know how when you're 24 years old, you think that's what you are. When I realized around me in ICI where I worked that everybody else there was also 24 or 25, the young people, and there was guys from Harvard and from Princeton and from Oxford and Cambridge, and I suddenly realized that they were all going to be as good or better than me, mostly better than me. And the only thing I could do was to work harder and be more disciplined than anybody else. Okay, and that was 36 years ago. Now, that then becomes a habit. Whether you are a founder, there are 100, maybe 1,000 other founders around you who will also be building a business. Some very much like yours, some slightly different. But if you're not faster and stronger than them, and you are more disciplined than them, you'll fail. There's absolutely no way. And if you look at the life stories of people like, Mark Zuckerberg, and look at all the other guys out there, and Elon Musk, and they are people who are extremely disciplined in the way they work their businesses. One of the most amazing of all entrepreneurs, and very inspiring even today, is Richard Branson, the boss at Virgin. As far as I know, reading his story, he was up every day at 5 a.m. in the morning. He's one of the greatest creative forces over the last maybe 30 some odd years, 35 years. So I don't think that you can confuse sleeping in late with being creative in any way possible. Plain damn lazy. That's about all I can say. Maybe coming from an old man like me, it may not feel very right, but listen to the stories of all these people. They work hard, they are disciplined, and like an athlete, you have to be in training all the time, because if you're not, and you're sleeping late and you're not doing your job or you're not working, and guess what, guys, whether in the corporate world where I've been used to as CEO many times, I would sleep 4 hours a night for 5 to 6 years. And the time I was running Mobile Link and growing it, I never went to bed before midnight. I was up at 4:30 in the morning every day for the next 6 years. Okay, and I would think that a founder would have to do the same if he really wanted to succeed and build something which is going to be worth something when he looks back as a father and a grandfather in 25 years. He will only have got there if he is in the best possible training, not for a sprint, but for a marathon, because that's what it takes to ultimately reach success. And even when you look at these overnight stories that we keep talking about, overnight successes, I've always said that when you go back into history, each one of these overnight successes is 20 years in the making. It doesn't happen by accident, okay? And that's a fact. And if these people who are aspiring to go down that road take the trouble to read the life stories of some of these people. They are inspiring, and they are inspiring because of the way these people have lived their lives. They've given up so many things in their lives. Some of them have lost, families and marriages because they were so devoted to what they were trying to create and make it the greatest in the world. I'm not advocating that that's what you do, but that's what it takes in terms of reaching success, whether you are a corporate individual, a successful businessman, or a founder who's thinking of creating something of value.
Thank you, Jahan. What are your feelings about self-discipline, and what role does it play in the success of a founder? And you've seen multiple founders going through different journeys, over the years, maybe in the last decade. Even CEOs, so CEOs of large companies are also sort of founders building their own, success story. Where do you see self-discipline playing a role?
So I know young people often say that, in terms of time, they often say, oh, it doesn't matter. I can come in anytime. And, it doesn't matter that I'm not disciplined in terms of time. But then you look at them, and in their lives, there is discipline integrated into many things. If a founder is into, a lot of exercise or jogging, you will find he or she will get up in the morning and jog every morning. That is discipline. And the reason they're doing that is because they want to be fit, and it is something they enjoy, right? So you can't have it both ways. Many of them have set aside time after work. They say that we read on a regular basis because we want to increase the knowledge that we have. And it doesn't matter whether it is fiction, it's biography. They've set aside time for themselves to do that. Some of them who are into gaming, they will play a game every night for several hours because they say it makes them better at that game, right? So it is discipline, it is habit, it is, repeating the same thing over and over that you get better. And so I think if they cannot have it both ways. They cannot say that, in terms of time, we will do what we wish. But I agree with what Faisal was saying. I'm not saying that you have to have a disciplined life in the sense that you have to work 9 to 5. No. A lot of people work 11 to 7 or 8 o'clock. I'm just saying if you've committed to something, you better live up to that. Otherwise, flexibility in work, the future of work is this flexibility in terms of venue, flexibility in terms of the time that you start and the time that you finish. But discipline is still important because whatever you're going to do, to do it well, you need that practice, you need that discipline, you need to make sure that you do it often enough so it becomes a habit. And I think that I have seen young founders do. It's not that they don't do it. They do it, but they look at us and they say, oh, in your day, this is what used to happen. But in our day, we can live our lives the way we want. And most of them who pick entrepreneurship as an option think that the reason that they are doing this is because then they can get up when they want. They can work shorter hours. They're their own boss. They soon find that that's not true. That if it is your business, you put in as much time as you have to. You do as much as needs to be done. You wear multiple hats because you cannot have an employee or a founder or co-founder for every part of the business in the beginning. In the beginning, you are doing multiple things. So I think they understand that. I think they just like to say that, hey, I'm my own boss and I can do what I want, and I'm not into putting in this much time. That's why I don't want to be an employee somewhere else. But I see how hard they work. They work very hard, not only for themselves, but also if they're trying to help another founder with what they are trying to do. You see the kind of commitment and the time that they put in. I see that when we're running our conference, 0 to 1 Disrupt. They work all night with us for several nights to make it happen, to make sure that every little detail is taken care of. They take pride in what they're doing. And that is what's important. If it's your business, if it is something that you're doing, even for somebody else, as long as you take ownership of that and you make sure that every detail is taken care of, then you feel proud of what you've achieved. And I think these young people know that, and I can see it. I can see it in the way they lead their lives. Of course, they make mistakes. We all do. I still make mistakes. You can't hold them, you can't hold them liable for it or responsible for it. As long as they correct themselves and move on, I'm fine with that.
Thank you. So I completely agree with you that different people are at different stages of their life journey and learning what it takes to succeed. But as a concept, I think self-discipline is really critical, because self-discipline is about making a decision and following through with it. And if you can't apply it to yourself and follow through, then how will you lead other people and get them to follow up on their on the decisions that you're making for them? So I'll request Asif now, from your personal story as well. You lead a large organization, IT के अंदर जो है, especially हमारी organizations बहुत बड़ी नहीं है और आपकी सबसे बड़ी है. So what role has self-discipline played in your becoming, being in this stage that you are? Asif, mute him.
Sorry. My personal story, I have joined systems as a out of fresh grad, out of fast in 1996. And what Jahara said just now, that what I truly practice and believe at that time, since I've started as a developer, that we work like this is our own company, right? We are not here for 9 to 5 job, or what development, what I've my mentors have trained us in a way is that nobody in supervisor cannot tell us that, okay, they can give us the direction, but and this is the work that needs to be done, but they are not dictating that, okay, this is what you need to do. We felt the responsibility from day one, and treat the company as like you are expensing anything, or you are putting the extra effort or whatever it takes to get the job done. That's what has been the training. And this is, I think, being the biggest lesson learned for my career. And I've worked through various roles in this organization. And this is what I've been telling to my team as well, that once you, not two per people are equal, like no matter whether you are a genius or a normal person, if you know what you need to do and you are committed and you feel that this is not like just my 9 to 5 type of a job that I'm going to do and go home, I think that makes a difference. And that's what I truly believe and exercised throughout my 25, 26 years with systems now. And being consistency, like it's not like hopping from one place to other just for like money, at least, because this is what a lot of youngsters, that's what, again, we have to mentor, that, okay, you have to look for you don't have to look for the job, you have to look for the career, and it has to be calling from inside. It's not even, it's more than the career sometimes, that comes from your heart, that, okay, this is what I believe, this is what I want to do. So it's self-discipline, and all of this is very important once you exercise and believe in what you do. So I think that makes a difference. And this is what I tell all of the youngsters and all of the people that join us: don't come here for a job. If you are here for a job, you are at the wrong place. If you're thinking big and if you want to have your career with us, you can better find a little bit more for somewhere else. But if you are here for a money only, then that's not what we can nurture you and what we can grow.
Thank you, Asif. Faisal, you've built a company in the last, couple of years to a large size. आपकी life में self-discipline, what sort of role has it played? I think you're.
Shahjan, hearing everyone, I will only extend the same conversation. When you are intent to become an entrepreneur, that means you are expecting extraordinary from your life. You don't want ordinary from your life. So when you say you want extraordinary from your life, you have to put extraordinary effort, into the perspective, and you have to be a real role model for others to see. So when it comes to ambition and when it comes to craziness, at the end of the day, there is no time bound kind of an effort, to the venture. You go all out to make sure that you're reaching to your target. So I have a very different kind of perspective on work-life balance, before the time, maybe, it applies much later in my context, than early in your career. Because if you have extraordinary dreams about your life and you have extraordinary demands from your life, you have to go extra mile to make them happen. So discipline in terms of when you're establishing a company, your people around you, as Asif mentioned, you have to turn your venture into a passion, for others to see actually that's the case, and that you make a crazy bunch of people that takes organization to the next level. The leader do the walk the talk and take everyone along, in that journey, which everyone has a belief as a passion. And then you start winning wars and you winning ventures in times to come. And that's exactly, what is important, that self belief of the person who intends to see, because he can see much larger picture than many others around them can see at that point in time. And then he has to make believe others that it can happen. And if that, extraordinary situation comes across, in everyone's passion, then organization move forward. So if you intend to become a CEO at the age of 32, and if you feel that, I can only work 9 to 5, it's not going to happen, because somebody else is going to work 9 to 9. So the thing is, if you match at that competitiveness, that you have to go extra mile. So yes, your self-discipline, your passion, your value chain, your ethical standards has to be seen by everyone around your organization, and you have to make sure that they indulged into the same passion like you, and then the magic happens. And every entrepreneur passed through the same journey, and I think, I'm no different than anybody else, sitting here in this
Excellent.
conversation.
Excellent.
Yeah, back to
So,
you, Shahjahan.
I completely agree. I also believe that work-life balance is about being aligned with your long-term goals, and it's not about कि आज के दिन में आपने अपने time को किस तरह structure करना है. For example, Jahara is sitting with us, and her
Very true.
work-life balance is 9 to 9. She works, and and then 9 to 12 she has work-related dinners, which are also fun. So, and sometimes she sleeps as well, I guess. So, I wanted to take the conversation a little bit towards, we keep talking about building brand Pakistan, and as if it's a question of, making a logo or putting up an ad in Wall Street Journal. And even though it's a question of all of us, every time we have an interaction with somebody outside Pakistan who's going to create a view of Pakistan, or impression of Pakistan, what sort of interaction will that be? Will we be there on time? Will we meet our commitments? Will we do excellent work or average work or below average work? And I've also noticed that what we call developed markets are also the markets where people will meet their commitments more. There's more trust. They will be on time more relative to the emerging markets, as well as even between South and North Europe. You'll notice that if you have a meeting with a Northern European group of people, so they'll be more likely to be on time and be there and remember what the agenda is. And if you're having a meeting with somebody from South Europe, they're less likely to be as aligned with what's supposed to be happening. And the same holds true for West and East. And Chinese are now developing fast, and we can see they're very self-disciplined. They have higher work ethics and so on. So as a country, if we want to build brand Pakistan, what do we need to do as individuals in our interactions with the rest of the world that will build this brand Pakistan that we all need to build, which will help all of us, because eventually that's the passport we carry, that's the identity that we have. So I like to start with Asif, and then we'll move forward. Yeah. Asif, mute him.
I think it's basically brand package. It's a narrative that's what we need to develop first, right? It's once there is a common narrative, it's not like putting the ad and where we going with for the brand Pakistan narrative. It's once we have established the narrative that we will take, as we have been hearing, what government is trying also and at our level as well, economic security narrative, that what we need to develop for our IT industry. And I think this is, you guys are part of it. Jana is part of many discussions where we are thinking that how we can brand and do the marketing independent uh, studies and so on and so forth, because this is very, very important for us, not in our sector but all other areas as well. Like because wherever we interact, if we try to portray, because we are the ambassadors, wherever we go, we carry through our integrity, through our meeting people, through our empathy, through our humbleness, through interaction, we show that we mean the business, we know the business, we walk the talk, and we are passionate about what we are doing in our work, how we are selling our country, how we are representing our country, and we know that our country can deliver. So I think it's all of us as a professional. God has given us an opportunity, so we need to portray that, and we need to brand Pakistan. But on top of it, I think it's very important we can do at our level, but at a broader level, in a macro sense, that the government level, the branding and marketing of the country, and is really, really important, not just for the business but for a lot of things, because the perception outside and the reality inside does matter, right? So that's what matters, right? So
Thank you. Zohair Sahab, I'll request you to chime in regarding building brand Pakistan through our interactions and our values. So I think you're mute, or we can't hear you.
Sorry, as as already been said, it's not about putting out an ad. Of course, Incredible India did a lot of stuff for India at the time, but it's all about our own behavior, right? So each one of us is in a privileged position, mashallah, and so are so many other people who, either studied here and have friends abroad, or have studied abroad and left friends there, to also be able to project on our Facebook, our LinkedIn, our association with our communication with those people abroad, what is it that we try and present to them? Unfortunately, most of the time, we are putting our own negative stuff out there for everybody because it seems to drive us, it seems to consume us on a daily basis. Unfortunately, although there is so much good that is also worth talking about in Pakistan, whether it's the beauty of the country, the potential of the country, the amazing, potential of the workforce we have, the amazing stuff that is happening in each sector, whether it's the startups and the entrepreneurial ecosystem or otherwise. And it's incumbent, I think, on each one of us to be able to take maybe 30 minutes in a day to communicate with people outside, put up the right post on LinkedIn or Facebook or on your WhatsApp group, which reflects something positive about this country rather than something which is not good. हर जगह हर मुल्क में बुरी चीजें होती हैं, अच्छी चीजें भी होती हैं. मैंने बहुत सारे मुल्कों में रह चुका हूँ, so I understand that as well. But हमारे neighbors, हम के बारे में हर वक्त बात करते रहते हैं, उनका एक खासियत है, and all the time I lived in London and other places I met them, वो अपने मुल्क के बारे में कभी खराब बात नहीं करते, हमेशा अच्छी बात करते हैं. And that is a point that is inbuilt into them. It's part of their habit as well. This हम earlier discussed कर रहे थे. And I think that's very important. And if we all do it, तो वो जैसे कहते हैं कतरा कतरा दरिया बनता है, एक तो वो चीज़ है. दूसरा फिर वही जो अभी बात की हम आसिफ ने भी की और उन्होंने भी की कि when we do interact with those people, make sure we deliver things on time. Make sure we keep make sure that if you're dialing into a call, you're in the right time zone at the right time. If you make a promise, all that builds the brand of the people in the country and ultimately of the country itself. So ये कोई एक one pill नहीं है जो एक दिन हम सुबह उठ के गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से या विश होगी हम सब खा लेंगे तो brand हो जाएगी. It won't happen like that. It is exactly as I said. It is piece by piece, and that's how we build an entirely different brand of the country. Inshallah.
Thank you. John, you have been an ambassador for Pakistan, and you've even the Nest IO is a joint project with Google and Samsung, and I think that's a success story on its own, convincing those companies to invest in the Pakistani youth. and building those relationships around the world. So, how do you feel? How can we project brand Pakistan in a way through our personal interactions and building those relationships that you have done, but maybe other people need to be inspired more and do the same.
I think each of us does that, whether it's the diaspora who live in many of these countries outside, in their daily lives, the friendships, the business relationships they make shows what Pakistanis are. And then I think us, whenever we travel, any of us, as part of a delegation, we show them who we are by the way we behave. And this is something that I've always had a briefing with our youngsters whenever we are traveling, that look, we are going, yes, as individuals, to compete in whether it's a picta or whether it's, we went to Turkey to take part in Startup Istanbul. Remember that you are not just representing yourself, you're also representing the organization who has brought you here. And most of all, you are representing your country. So whatever you do will reflect back on your country. And I think that is extremely important to instill in our youngsters as well as in our athletes, in everybody that represents this country, because whatever they do, wherever they go, they are representing brand Pakistan. And I think that's why each of us is an ambassador. So rightly said, I think Asif and Zohair both said this, that, it is how we behave that is going to show people what Pakistanis are. So if we behave well, then Pakistan is going to be looked at as a country that is full of amazing people. Even though they've maybe met 100 of us, they will believe that 220 million people in this country are hardworking, are friendly, are warm, are hospitable, are, keep their commitment. And I think this is the message that we want to convey. I believe that I think young people should travel much more all around the world and show what talent they have, the warmth they have, the confidence they have. I have seen that whether we bring foreigners from outside into Pakistan or we take our youngsters outside, they change minds. They change the image of what this country is. People used to believe that this was, okay, we are a developing country, but that doesn't mean every city and every town in this country does not have education. People don't speak English. Those are the things that you used to hear in the early days. Now people have accepted that we have very talented people. Some of them have even studied at very great, very good institutes outside of Pakistan, in the US, in Europe, in the UK, and have come back and have built companies and have contributed to the development of the country. We need this message to be conveyed. And I totally agree with what Zohair said. On our social media, a lot of people often say, you don't say anything anti-government, you don't say anything about all the poverty that exists in this country. Why do you always share all these happy messages? I said, it's a question of focus. There are bad things happening here. Let's address them. Let's try and fix them. But why do you need to promote them? Let's put out what good is happening, because a lot of people, even within Pakistan, are not happy because they don't realize that there's so much good that's happening here. Let's project that. So you will see on my social media cheerful messages, happy people, youngsters that are doing amazing things. And when I go to any of the Google meetings or any meeting outside Pakistan, each time people comment, hey, the nest and the youngsters and the entrepreneurial ecosystem is so vibrant. People are so happy. That space is so amazing. It's not the space, it's the people in the space. So I think that's how we build brand Pakistan. Asif is right. We've been trying to convince the government to take out studies. I mean, for years we've been doing that because we need the numbers. That's also important. We need the numbers and the history, because that's how people are going to know what our industry is all about. But also all this soft culture, this image of Pakistan, that needs to go out there, because then people will come here. And you've noticed any foreigner who's come here has gone back and been an ambassador for us all around the world. So, that's brand Pakistan. Let's push it as much as we can.
So let's just, we're at the end of our session. Let's just go through closing remarks. I'll request Asif to go first, and yeah.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. First of all, I think it's a great session, and it's a very interesting topic as well. Like we talk about a lot of things, but about ethics, integrity, and all of these. This is a great topic in today's world, where this is the key foundation and the building block for building the great company. And great startup or whatever you do in your life as a good human being, I think, or a good family member. This is the most important thing. That whatever you do in your day in and day out, this is ethics, and your integrity is the most important element that makes you distinguish from others, and that makes you successful. I think for all the youngsters and all the professionals, they're going to listen to all of us. I think I would very humbly say that this is something that never compromise on, right? This is something that will build your career, this will build your company, so this will build your business, this will build your personality, and this will bring the passion to succeed in your career and your daily life, and will make a huge difference if you stick to those. And we will at the end brand Pakistan positively with this kind of a message, with this kind of ethic and behavior, that what we foresee, that we portray, and take our country to the next level. That's what we are all passionate about. It this is We have to give back, we have to give back to our country. We have gotten a lot, and we are thankful to God and thankful to the country, that wherever we are, because of we can complain, we can debate, we can do whatever we say, but this is where we are. Is we are blessed, So let's give it back, and let's do whatever we can for our nation and for our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Asif. Faisal, please. Faisal, you're mute, I think. Faisal, up mute.
Yes, I'm back. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It was a great learning, from Jahara. After a long time, I connected with Zuhair Saab and Asif. They all are inspiration, and of course, these represents, what Pakistan can be. And first thing, I always say that we are trained to become a salaried class. And everyone who is listening right here, Pakistan needs lots and lots of entrepreneurs, and Pakistan can place where Pakistan can go. The thing is, from both government and private sector, they can slowly, gradually work together to brand Pakistan, because we are in every way, with the price point and in context of intelligence, we are above par than the many nationalities around the world. It's all about presenting it well, owning it well. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, it has to be a long-term perspective. And without ethics, success is absolutely impossible. So the thing is, fundamentals have to be in place, to rise. And I have a firm belief that Pakistan will come back into picture, and people who are pursuing anything and everything, they should turn into entrepreneurship, and that's will take Pakistan to the next level. So thank you very much, everyone. It was absolute delight to be here. Thank you very much, Arjan. You have been an excellent moderator. You touched base everything practically. Thank you very much, for having me.
Thank you, Faisal. Zuhair Saab, your closing remarks, please.
Ji, thank you, Shajan. As everybody said, I think it's a great session. Very honored to be here. I will leave you with two things. One, it's a great quote which I've lived by for a long time in my life, which is that it's by George Bernard Shaw, and it says, "Some people see things as they are and ask why. I dream things that never were and ask why not." So ये हमारा सबसे बड़ा dilemma. We need to ask why not. Okay, and if we do that, I think we are capable of almost anything in this world, and inshallah we will be. And the second thing I will leave you with is the topic of the day. We've discussed a lot of ethical values, but I will ask you to go back and just look up on the Google dictionary the one word, integrity, and then just look at the number of जितनी उसमें सिफ्तें हैं एक word के अंदर integrity में. अगर आप उनको अडॉप्ट करना शुरू कर दें, तो आई थिंक आपकी जो लाइफ की जर्नी है वो बहुत बेहतर हो जाएगी. I wish everybody lots of good luck with their entrepreneurship ideas.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Jahara. You get the final word.
No, everything that needed to be said, I think, has been said, and in words that probably I cannot replicate. It's been great being on this panel, and thank you, Shahjahan, for this opportunity to talk about things that I'm really passionate about. I think I agree with Zohair that integrity is crucial to everything that we do. And if we can be honest in our relationships and in our business and in our everyday lives, then I think we will find that everything works out. I know my father throughout his life always believed that honesty was the cornerstone of everything he did. And being a banker, that's important. So a handshake means, yes, a commitment. And I found that people actually gave him checks to bring out cash and bring it to them, large amounts of cash, without thinking about it twice because they trusted him. So I think that trust that you get from people because of the way you are or who you are or how you behave, that's what you want. I mean, what is life about except to be trusted and believed in and valued for who you are? So, ethics on Global Ethics Day, I think ethics is something that we need to instill more and more in our young people, especially because when they look around, they don't see too much of it in government, in sometimes in the corporate sector, sometimes in people around them. We need to make sure that the next generation of people who come out and who represent Pakistan are ethical and value that the honesty in relationships and business, because that's what's going to take us far. Just cutting corners, which many people believe will get them a certain amount of money today, is not, it's not something that you live for. So I would suggest people who are listening in, let's focus on what's important. And what's important is we want to be remembered as people who are good, basically good, and who stand by our value system. And that value system is something that represents us as people, it represents our families, it also represents our country. Thanks very much, and thank you to ACCA and ICMA and HBL and everybody, CFA Society, for putting this together. I've really enjoyed having conversation and being on a panel with such great people.
Thank you so much. It was great hosting all of you, and I really enjoyed, listening to all of you, and especially a special thank you to Jahara and Zohair Saab. You're both very inspiring, and I wish younger people look at you and realize that being ethical and meeting time commitments and having high standards and having self-discipline. This is what it takes to be successful, and you're prime examples of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shahjahan, and thank you so much to all the esteemed panelists for sharing key insights around the topic and also sharing the inspiring stories. In fact, I really enjoyed the conversation that how each one of you keep on inspiring your teams as well as on the individual level to make the future leaders. And we definitely look forward to engage you in future as well in another insightful session. So, and I'm sure our audience also enjoyed this insightful session. Just to remind our viewers that tomorrow is the last day for this Global Ethics Week, and tomorrow we will also be having last two insightful session. So I would request every one of you to stay in touch, and looking forward to host you all the viewers tomorrow as well. And lastly, thank you so much again, and we look forward to engaging you, all of you, in future as well. So with that, thank you so much, and take good care of yourself.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.